He thought she was just a nurse. She was a trained killer in disguise. The first bullet shattered the reception glass before anyone even screamed. Nurse Elena Voss did not flinch, did not drop the chart in her hand, did not do any of the things a frightened woman in blue scrubs was supposed to do. She simply exhaled, set the chart down on the counter with the same steady hands she used to draw blood every morning, and began counting the shooters by the sound of their boots on the marble floor. 3 men. 2 entrances. One mistake they didn't know they'd already made, they had just taken her hospital hostage. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in people who carry more strength than the world ever gives them credit for, hit that like button, drop a comment below, share this with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to Midnight Tales so you never miss a story like this one. 6 months earlier, nobody at St. Bartholomew's Hospital knew Elena's real name, let alone her real past. To her co-workers, she was simply the quiet one, the nurse who arrived early, stayed late, and never once raised her voice even when a patient screamed in pain or a doctor barked orders in the middle of a crisis. She moved through the chaos of the emergency room like water finds its way around stone, calm, precise, unbothered. The younger nurses admired her composure. The older ones whispered that something about her didn't add up. Nobody asked, and Elena never offered. David Reyes noticed her before he understood why. He was a paramedic, the kind of man who joked to keep from breaking down after a hard call, who brought coffee for the night shift without being asked, who believed, stubbornly, foolishly, beautifully, that everyone deserved someone in their corner. He noticed the way Elena's eyes swept a room the second she entered it, cataloging exits, distances, the weight of every object within reach. He noticed the faint scar along her collarbone that she never explained. He noticed that when a patient's family member once raised a fist in the hallway, Elena had disarmed the situation with a single movement so fast and so gentle that the man was sitting down before he understood what happened. David told himself it was nothing. He told himself a lot of things about Elena that weren't quite true, because the truth was easier to ignore than to face. What David didn't know, what nobody in that hospital knew, was that Elena Voss had once been Captain Elena Kovac, a name buried under 3 false identities and a decade of silence. She had served in a unit that didn't exist on paper, the kind of soldier sent where governments needed problems to disappear quietly. She had saved lives in the field the same way she now saved them in the ER, except back then, saving one life sometimes meant taking another. She had walked away from that world not because she stopped being good at it, but because she got tired of being good at the wrong thing. She wanted to heal instead of end. She wanted, more than anything, to be ordinary. So she became a nurse, and for 3 years, she almost believed the disguise had become her real skin. Then came the morning 3 armed men walked into St. Bartholomew's, and the past she had buried came looking for her instead. They weren't there for money. They were there for a patient, a whistleblower under police protection in room 214, a man whose testimony could bring down a smuggling operation that stretched across 3 countries. The men in masks didn't care how many nurses, doctors, or frightened families stood between them and that room. Chaos exploded across the ground floor. Alarms shrieked. People dropped to the tile and covered their heads. David froze at the sight of a rifle pointed toward a crowd of terrified patients, his body caught between the instinct to run and the desperate need to protect someone, anyone. And in that frozen second, he saw Elena move. She didn't run from the gunfire. She moved into it, low and controlled, using gurneys and doorframes as cover the way most people use them for support. She caught the eye of a young security guard cowering behind the front desk and, with nothing more than 2 fingers and a glance, silently directed him to pull the fire alarm and clear the west corridor. She disappeared around a corner, and for nearly 90 seconds, David didn't know if she was alive or dead. When she reappeared, one of the gunmen was down, disarmed and unconscious, and Elena was dragging an elderly patient's wheelchair to safety like nothing at all had happened. David finally understood, in that moment, exactly who, and what, Elena truly was. And strangely, the fear he expected to feel never came. What came instead was a wave of something closer to awe, and beneath it, grief, because he realized how long she must have been carrying this alone, pretending to be small so no one would ask her to be dangerous again. The final confrontation happened in the stairwell outside room 214, where the last gunman stood between Elena and the patient she had sworn, long before any hospital oath, that she would protect. There was no cinematic speech, no dramatic monologue. There was only Elena's voice, quiet and even, asking the man to put the weapon down, giving him one chance to walk away with his life intact. He didn't take it. What followed lasted 4 seconds and ended with the man disarmed, restrained, and weeping on the floor, while Elena knelt beside him and checked, out of pure old habit, whether she had broken his wrist too badly for it to heal clean. Even in violence, her hands remembered how to be careful. When the police finally arrived, they found a woman in blood-speckled scrubs sitting on the stairwell floor, checking a stranger's pulse with the same gentle patience she gave every patient she'd ever treated. The whistleblower survived. Every hostage survived. And Elena Kovac, or Elena Voss, or whatever name she chose to wear next, sat quietly in the wreckage of a life she thought she had successfully hidden, waiting to find out if the truth would cost her the only ordinary life she had ever wanted. It didn't. David found her first, before the officers, before the reporters, before her own fear could convince her to disappear again. He didn't ask about her past or demand answers she wasn't ready to give. He simply sat down beside her on the cold stairwell steps, took the blanket someone had handed him, and wrapped it around her shoulders the same way she had spent years wrapping comfort around everyone else. He told her, simply, that whoever she used to be didn't erase the person he had watched save every single life in that hospital that day. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do isn't hiding their past, it's finally letting someone see it. In the weeks that followed, Elena didn't run. For the first time in her life, she stayed, and let the people around her hold a little of the weight she had carried alone for so long. The hospital board, after a great deal of quiet negotiation, allowed her to keep her job. Her co-workers looked at her differently now, not with fear, but with a kind of fierce respect reserved for people who had bled to keep others safe and asked for nothing in return. And David, who had once believed everyone deserved someone in their corner, finally understood that Elena had never needed protecting. She had simply needed someone willing to stand beside her instead of behind her. If this story moved you even a little, if it made you believe that people who seem quiet or ordinary might be carrying the most extraordinary strength inside them, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs a reminder that it's never too late for a second chance. Let us know in the comments what part of Elena's story touched you the most. We read every single one. And before you go, do us one small favor. Comment the word strength below if you believe everyone deserves a chance to become who they were always meant to be. Because sometimes, the gentlest hands in the room belong to the person who has fought the hardest to become gentle.